Hey guys, John Boston, Boston Style Racing. We got a real treat today. This is a 1987 Kawasaki GPZ 1000 cylinder head. And we're going to rebuild this, we're going to port it, we're going to skim the head a little bit, get a good sealing surface, up the compression a tiny bit, and we're going to cut the valves and the valve seats. The way we're going to start off here is you have to disassemble it, of course. And this has rockers that the cams move on to operate the valves. And the rockers are held in by these shafts that, like this one right here, that are hollow, and they have oiling holes in them. And if you can see right here, each cam has a little hole. You can see them better on this side right there. A little hole, each cam has an oil feed through that shaft, and the way you get those out, there's a little cap on the end each here, and you undo the cap, and then these rods are threaded. They're threaded on the inside here, and so you just find a bolt that happens to screw into that one, and then you can pull those suckers out. See, now the rockers are still in place here. They've got a spring, probably see better on this side, got a spring on the side of each one of them holding tension on them so they stay over and actuate the valves properly. But see, they'll come right out now that that shaft's gone. So we're going to disassemble this, and then we'll take a look. Once we get the valves out of there, then we can see better what the ports are looking like, and I'll give you an update. Okay guys, here's just an overall look. We've got the valves out, the valve springs out, the rockers are off. You have to remember the valve springs have washers under them. You have to remove the washers. These each have two sets of two springs. The springs are paired. On each valve there's two springs to prevent harmonic problems. You know, where one spring will hit a harmonic frequency and start bouncing all over. They have a second spring that helps to prevent that, because its harmonic frequency is opposite or different. So there's a washer under each one of those springs. You have to make sure you remove all that stuff, because you don't want pieces falling off while you're working on it. You don't want, while you're grinding on it, you don't want metal to get underneath or inside anything that's going to come out later and cause problems. So here's just an overall look of the combustion chambers here. And let's see. There's not a great deal of light. You can see the exhaust port's pretty small compared to what we have today, but we won't be enlarging those really. We're just going to clean them up, the whole thing. We just it's not all about making it bigger, it's just making it flow better. You can find places to increase flow without making it just bigger. Yeah, it's kind of dark to see in there. I've got a different lens I can throw on here later. Once I get it cleaned up a little and we can get some more light in there, I'll get you some more close-up pictures. Okay guys, here's that lens I promised you that has a little closer look. And sorry, because it zooms in so far, it's going to be a little shakier. You see how there's this clean area right inside the intake port? Of course, now, yeah, focus. Come on, focus. That's where Kawasaki has just taken and cut a little chamfered area around the edge so that the air will flow in there better. You know, air comes from the carburetors through the rubber boot. The boot hooks onto the head here, and you don't want it to just hit a brick wall with the air. So they've made a little, you know, an attempt to smooth the transition there. And what we're going to do is we're not going to enlarge this area any at all. We're going to keep this same basic size here. We're just going to smooth the transition into the port. And that's the first area we're going to address. Okay, let's see if we can get focus here, maybe. Yeah. You can see this is the exact same port that I showed you a second ago, with the little bit of smoothing that Cowie had done at the factory. And now I've just used a carbide burr to rough that out and kind of blend it into the port throat, about an inch or so. And let's see if I can get this. Yeah, the tool we used for that is a carbide burr, and that removes material very quickly. You've got to keep it moving. See if I can get focus again here. Not a chance, huh? Yeah, there we go. Check that out. Yeah, you got to keep that bit moving. You let that sit in one spot and it's going to dig you a hole you'll never see the end of. And like I said, it's not about, we don't want to make this bigger. We just want to make it flow better. If you just flat out, anybody can hog it out and make it bigger and get huge cubic feet per minute, CFM, but that's not going to make you more power. You're going to lose torque, you're going to lose velocity. It's all about where you remove the material. It's not just making it larger. So yeah, if you're going to try this yourself, be real careful with the carbide burr. Okay, now you can see as you get more and more of the raw metal exposed, then it becomes easier to see exactly what you're doing because it's not so dark in there. That really helps a lot. So as you go along, you kind of get a better idea of what it is you need to do. Okay, the next area we're going to be focusing on is going to be the seats, the bowls. See, this one fits pretty well, but see on this side there's a little extra material there where the seat gets pressed into the head, and sometimes they don't fit quite right. Actually, they never fit quite right. And so if you don't make any adjustments there, you're always going to have a flow issue. So I'm going to remove the parts of the seat that stick out too far, and then in some cases I'll be removing part of the bowl or the throat of the port where it sticks out further than the seat. Just take off whatever it is that I need to make it all line up correctly. Okay, as I was cleaning up the seat area in the bowls, I came across something I hadn't seen before. You can see right here, see where it's all clean and shiny where I've been grinding away? See right behind it, it's still dark here. It actually gets smaller. It's like there's a choke point here that I've been working on, and then it gets larger just before the valve. Well, that's going to reduce your velocity. You want the valve to be the highest velocity area. You want the whole thing basically to be like a big funnel. That's you want it to get the choke point at the valve so that the velocity is very high there. You don't want to have a choke point and then have it open up again right before the valve, So there's an area that'll need addressing on this head right there. And that's kind of one of my points is as you start cleaning it up, then you can see the areas that need improvement, and that's one of them. Okay, so I finished lining up the seats with the throats, and you can see the dark area I had pointed out over, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, right there. See the dark area? You can, sometimes the tool can show you the low areas. You run the tool over something, the stuff that gets removed is obviously a high spot, and the stuff that's left is the low spot. And so like I had mentioned, that's that area is larger than the previous area in the intake here. And I will be addressing that further, but that's all I'm going to take out with the carbide burr. You have to remember this is a liquid-cooled cylinder head, and there's large water jackets, especially in older models. They had larger water cavities, and the water ran a little slower. They've since made the cavities smaller, and the water runs quicker and cools more efficiently. But yeah, if you accidentally cut into one of those water channels, it's sad times. We're going to throw this thing away, and we're going to owe somebody a lot of money. Okay, our next tool of destruction is going to be what you call a cartridge roll or spiral roll. It's just basically sandpaper all wound up on a mandrel, and it's going to be a lot less aggressive than the carbide burr, even though this is some pretty rough stuff. you're a lot safer with this than you are with the burr. Okay, working the exhaust ports here, I found another discrepancy just like on the intake. Here, let me see if I can find it for you. See each one of these dark spots here. There's one, little dark spot. That's a low spot. On the exhaust, we're not quite as worried about it because the exhaust is being pumped out under pressure. Sorry about the focus. It just can't seem to decide where it wants to be. Yeah, on the intake, we're trying to get the stuff to suck in as the piston draws down. On the exhaust side, it's being pushed out under pressure. So as long as there's no restrictions, that's what we're looking for in the exhaust. So I may or may not remove enough material to completely get rid of those little depressions, but they're not really hurting anything. If I have to remove a giant amount of material to get rid of them, I'll probably just minimize them and leave it at that. Okay, well, it's a little dark in there yet, but you can see I've finished the intakes here. I've polished them just enough to where I can see that I've got everything smooth as I need it to be, because we're not gonna polish the intakes. You know, they get a rough finish, because the rough finish is gonna flow better than a smooth surface is. The exhaust will get polished, because there you're just trying to help prevent carbon buildup. But yeah, the intakes get I'm going to re-roughen these up a little bit before I send it out. And let me reposition here and I'll give you a shot of the exhaust. Okay, here's a shot of one of the exhaust ports. That is polished. It's just it'll look a little better once it's all cleaned up, get all the loose metal off of there. And the exhaust ports were a little bit of a challenge because they're very, very small. Even with Dremel-sized buffing tools, there's just places you can't get in there. You couldn't even fit your finger through there if you wanted to. The valve guide protrudes in there quite a bit. There's hardly any extra. If you can focus in there. See, it's very, very small space. So, you know, I did what I could. I got this end polished, and then from the combustion chamber side, it's polished pretty well also. Let me see if we can get some of that done here. Yeah, it's a little dark in there. Yeah, but those are polished up. And yeah, we're just about done with this part. I'm going to, like I said, re-roughen up the intakes, and then it's going to be ready to send out to the machine shop. We're going to get the surface of the head milled, just to clean it up so it'll have a good gasket surface to seal to. And we're going to get the valves and the valve seats cut so that they'll seal properly as well. And then we'll reassemble it, and it's back out to Bill. Okay guys, you can see here I've cleaned up all the metal shavings, and some of it's parts of the abrasive bits and stuff too. But you can see, compared to a credit card, you can see that I haven't removed just a ton of material. It's not just making the ports bigger. You know, anybody can make ports bigger, and sure, it'll flow on a flow bench. Sure, I could put tons of air through there on a flow bench. It's not going to make the bike run good. It's not about removing a ton of material, it's where the material's removed. Okay guys, now that we have the cylinder head back from the machine shop, we're going to reassemble it, but everything is all about cleanliness now. You can see I've cleaned the workbench. I've laid down clean towels, because you don't want this the surface where the gasket's going to meet here to get scratched up, or you know, we just don't want anything to go bad here. And this has been through a parts washer at the machine shop, where the head got milled, the valve seats got cut, and the valves themselves got cut. Yeah, been through the parts washer. I bring it back here, and I took a rag with WD-40 and wiped down all the surfaces that I could get to. You don't want any extra metal to be floating around in your motor, obviously. And one issue we came upon was when the valves were being cut here. I don't know if you can see this real greatly. The exhaust valves were fine. He was able to get the correct angle for them to seat there, and there's still a little bit of material on the bottom here. The intake valves have been beaten, you know, just from wear or whatever. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see what we can get. This way. Okay. You can see how keep out of the light here. Yeah. See how this is dished out? You know, by the time he would cut the angle into this, it would no longer have the proper diameter. You know, it just wouldn't fit anymore. It's just beaten into the seats, and they were all like that. He cut one of them all the way down, and you could see it was visibly smaller than it needed to be. It's weird how the intakes were all beat up, the exhausts were fine. Who knows? So now we're going to reassemble this and get it back out. And yeah, we cleaned up all the carbon. It's all looking like new here. Go back this way. There we go. And it's all pretty. See, and we had polished the exhaust ports, you know, to prevent carbon buildup. When the guy at the machine shop cleaned this up, it kind of put not a roughened surface, but just took the shine off of it. These are still, you know, they're basically the same. It's just they don't shine anymore like polish, which isn't a big issue. Another quick note I forgot to mention here is as we're reassembling, I'm going to put the valves in. I'm going to put new valve seals on there. You always want to replace the valve seals when you rebuild something. But when you put the valves in, you're going to want to use some assembly lube. Put some kind of lube in there. You don't want dry on dry anytime you're starting up metal. And I don't have the cams here, but when they install the cams, they're going to want to do the same thing. On the initial startup, expect some smoke. A little bit of smoke isn't going to be a big problem as long as your engine lasts. If you assemble it dry, you're going to have all kinds of troubles. You're going to wish you'd seen smoke. Okay, it's all finished. You can see we've got the valves back in. Everything's cleaned up as much as we could possibly get it. Put the shafts back in that hold the rockers. Whole thing's assembled. Brand new valve guide seals. Everything's lubed and ready to go.